Welcome to the session on web archiving and e-publications. In the previous sessions, we have learnt about various aspects of Web 3.0 multimedia content development, web writing essentials, search engine optimization, metadata, hyperlinking, and so on. Now we are going to discuss some of the media platforms like web archiving, e-newspaper, e-magazine, YouTube, and IMDb. Let's discuss each of them in detail. Web archiving. Much of the early web and the information it once held has now disappeared forever. From early online content in the early 1990s to around 1997, very little web information survived. This was before the recognition of the ongoing value of legacy information published online and before the first web archiving activities which began in 1996. As the World Wide Web has evolved into a major means of distributing information, archiving websites is an important element of cultural and historic preservation. Since the 1990s, the web has become not only culturally significant but also even more significant as a hub of information. As a result, the web has become integrated into other activities such as research, referencing, and quotation. These activities that used to rely on physical records now increasingly use and link to pages and documents held on websites. Web archiving is a vital process to ensure that people and organizations can access and reuse knowledge in a long term and comply with the needs of retrieving their information. So let's check what web archiving is. Web archiving is the process of collecting websites and information that they contain from the World Wide Web and preserving these in an archive. Web archiving is a similar process to traditional archiving of paper or parchment documents. The information is selected, stored, preserved, and made available to people. Access is usually provided to the archived websites for the use by government, businesses, organizations, researchers, historians, and the public. As in traditional archives, web archives are collected and cared for by archivists, in case web archivists. As the web contains a massive amount of websites and information, web archivists typically use automated processes to collect websites. The process involves harvesting websites from their locations on the live web using specially designed software. This type of software is known as crawler. Crawlers travel across the web and within websites, copying and saving the information as they go. Web crawling is the process by which we gather pages from the web in order to index them and support a search engine. The objective of crawling is to quickly and efficiently gather as many useful web pages as possible, together with the link structure that interconnects them. The archived websites and the information they contain are made available online as part of web archive collections. These can be viewed, read, and navigated as they were on the live web, but are preserved as snapshots of the information at particular points in time. Currently, web archives mainly use three approaches to organize and store archived web content. A. Local file systems. B. Web-based archives. C. Non-web-based archives. All three approaches preserve the intellectual content of the web pages but vary in the degree of preservation of context and structure. In a web archive that uses a local file system, the browser can navigate the file system just like navigating the web. Both the internal hierarchical structure of websites and the link relationships among different websites are preserved, except for those non-archived links that fall outside of the scope of web archive. However, Two contextual transformations have to be made to let web resources fit in file systems. First, the naming of URIs needs to be modified to conform to rules for local file systems. Second, absolute links have to be transformed to relative links to allow navigation within file system, as otherwise absolute links will point to live web pages instead of archived content. In a web-based archive, web pages and associated metadata are grouped and stored in container files, and the original URIs and links are preserved. Although the links also need to be redirected or transformed to point to the archive instead of the live web, the link redirection or transformation only happens when users access those links as opposed to having to be written into the archive. This second approach preserves authenticity to the largest degree. The non-web-based archive approach extracts web documents from hypertext context and reorganizes them into a catalog-based access mode or transforms them into PDF files. This approach preserves authenticity and integrity to the least degree.